joining us today for our inaugural Stearns Bank Fraud Seminar. This is a seminar that we plan on putting outwards to multiple communities on a going forward basis because we really want to make sure that the communities in which we're involved in have an awareness of fraud and different types of fraud trends that could affect not only you, but maybe people that you are that you have in your lives. So that could include parents, grandparents, children, friends, other relatives, colleagues. And it's really important to be aware of the different types of fraud trends that are out there and how you can position yourself so that you can be aware if it is happening to you, or maybe even recognize if it's happening to somebody that you know. So again, thank you for coming. When we're done today, if you have any questions, if you want to reach out to any of us individually, we are very much available and willing to answer questions. A couple of the other places that we're planning on replicating this seminar are in the Rocori area. There's been there's been great interest in the Rocori area for us to come and do this seminar, and then we're also looking at somewhere in the Albany area in that community as well, so that we can really tailor it to our different community needs. So agenda today, all of the presenters will introduce ourselves, and then we'll go through some fraud statistics, common fraud types, common scams, some warning signs that you might be becoming a victim of a scam or maybe have become a victim of a scam, tips to protect yourself, and then we'll wrap it up with walking through what are some things that Stearns Bank does to help protect not only Stearns Bank but also our consumers and our customers, and what you can do to prevent fraud, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. So I am Jill Molitor. I am the Chief Credit Officer at Stearns Bank. I've been with Stearns since the year 2000. I started 3 days out of college, and I've spent the majority of my career on the credit and fraud and BSA AML compliance side of the house. It's something that is very near and dear to my heart, where I firmly believe that it's important to not only understand credit and how credit affects individuals and businesses, but also fraud. And so they really go hand in hand when you're reviewing customers' information.
And I'm Becky Bailey. I work on the BSA Financial Crimes team. I've been with Stearns for about 2.5 years now, but I've been involved in the financial crimes fraud area since about 2008. When I met someone, hey, do you want to monitor prepaid debit cards for fraud? Sure. And here I still am. So you never know where your career is.
Well, I could go next. My name is Darren Hobner. I've been at Stearns Bank since 2018. I had originally started as a credit analyst, and a lot of that is reviewing credit reports, looking through tax returns, and I had a really keen eye for things that didn't quite make sense, and I found my place in the fraud team, and I'm currently the fraud manager.
I'm Patty Holland. I am on the tax and finance team at EFD for Stearns Bank. And I do not belong to the fraud team, but I'm very interested in the processes and procedures. Because of my job responsibilities, I'm filing taxes to all local jurisdictions and states, not only on a sales tax level, but also on a corporate level. And there's a lot of pieces that are flowing all the time, so we have to watch what information is coming into us and what we're sending out as well.
Okay, so some overview of some fraud statistics. So any person or business can become a victim of fraud, and that can happen really quickly. Bad actors don't gloss over anybody. They'll look for any loophole or any item that they can grasp onto, and they will grasp onto that. Things such as a person's age, their education level, their finances, what you are portraying outwards on social media, as we'll talk about in a little bit. That's a big place for bad actors to pick up information. They're looking for that information anywhere that they can find it. And there are reports that are out there that are saying that scams are actually hurting younger people more than older adults. I think there's a big misconception that although elderly fraud is a problem, and that is something that is definitely prevalent, I think it's really glossed over and overlooked that younger people are more apt to become victims of fraud. In fact, in 2021, there was a study that showed that adults that are between the ages of 18 and 59 were 34% more likely to report losing money over fraud than somebody who is over the age of 60. Another interesting stat, the Federal Trade Commission, so the FTC, said that there were more than $10 billion of reported losses due to fraud in 2023. That's $10 billion. This is money that's coming out of people's pockets, either people or businesses' pockets. That's a lot of money that people are losing due to fraud that we could keep in our economy and keep that going through. And there were about 2.6 million fraud reports reported to the FTC and the Department of Justice in 2023. And they're saying that this is actually underreported because a lot of people either don't recognize that they were victims of fraud or they're very embarrassed. It's something that it takes a lot for somebody to raise their hand and say, I think I was a victim of fraud. And so this is actually really underreported. And consumers reported that they lost about $4.6 million to investment scams in 2023, and that's another statistic that we'll be talking about a little bit more in depth. And this is a 21% increase over 2022 losses, so it's a problem and it's something that we want to make sure that people are aware of so that they aren't falling victim to an investment scam.
Well, I'm going to go over and start us off with some common fraud types. This is not an all-inclusive list. Some of these you may have heard of before, some you may have not, and that's okay because we'll go over them all in depth. So we have account takeover, elder financial exploitation, identity theft, synthetic identity theft, which is a little bit different, mail theft, and then we have a bunch of scams, card cracking, grandparent Instagram, investment, romance scams, sweepstakes, tech support, work from home, money mule, and timeshare scams. Starting us off with imposter scam. During an imposter scam, the fraudster pretends to be someone that you trust, someone that you know. They'll try to convince you to send them money or share personal information with them. Scammers often present themselves as a government agent, a family member, or someone that might be able to help you with a technology issue. Scammers may ask you to wire money, purchase gift cards, or send cryptocurrency. This is because it's very difficult to reverse or recoup the payment types to get any of that money back. Going on to imposter scam prevention, scammers can often spoof caller ID, making it appear that a call is coming from someone you trust, such as a family member, maybe it's a bank. Don't use gift cards, cryptocurrency, or payment apps to pay someone that you don't know or that you haven't truly identified. Scammers will often insist that you pay via these methods, which is a flag that something is amiss. Before sending money, always verify the request with a real agency, company, or person. You don't want to use the number that the bad actor gave you. Scammers can be very convincing over the phone to make you click a link or to make it appear that whatever they're sending you is legit. Locate a correct phone number yourself online and call that number to verify it's legitimate. Also want to be suspicious of a call from any government agency asking for money or information, since real government agencies will never call, email, text, or message you on social media asking you for money or personal information. 1 in 10 investors are victims of investment scams. Be wary of ads claiming that they can quickly make lots of money with low or no risk. There are a few warning signs to look out for. The company may have testimonials from people who have gotten rich from their proven business methods. These are often paid actors, or the reviews are completely fabricated. They try to rush you to make a decision to invest. Protect yourself. Definitely take the time to research the offer. Make sure that it seems legit. Search online for the name of the company with the words review, scam, or complaint. Most investments carry some level of risk, so it's important to be wary of anything that states it's a no-risk investment. Identity theft occurs when someone uses your name or personal identifying information without your permission to open new accounts, use existing accounts, or obtain services. Some warning signs for identity theft would be receiving credit cards which you didn't apply for, unauthorized charges on your bank accounts or credit card statements, receiving bills or collection letters for accounts that you don't recognize, new credit bureau accounts that you didn't authorize. It's important to always protect yourself. Read bank statements and credit card statements carefully and often, looking for any unauthorized activity. Know your payment's due date. Is there anything that you don't recognize? Shred any documents with personal information and review your credit bureau reports annually. So I touched on before that synthetic identity theft is a little different than normal identity theft. And synthetic identity fraud is one of the fastest growing financial crimes in the US. Fraudsters often combine real information, which is stolen, and fake identity information to create a new identity, often called a Frankenstein identity. Fraudsters often target children the most, who will find that their credit is ruined years after their identity was stolen. Some warning signs for synthetic identities would be recent credit inquiries not initiated by you, incorrect or unfamiliar information listed on your credit report, or receiving bills for items not purchased or loans not taken out by the victim. As always, we want to protect ourselves. Monitor or freeze your credit reports, protect your social security number and any other personal identifiable information, and shred all documents with that information. I'll wrap us up here with some email account takeover. Email account takeover occurs when cybercriminals gain unauthorized access to a user account. Fraudsters may steal login credentials or purchase them on the dark web. Some warning signs to look out for is a victim receives an email or a text from a compromised account requesting personal or financial information, funds via wire or card, and immediate action, creating that sense of urgency, really pushing you to move forward with the transaction. Protect yourself. Use a strong and unique password to protect accounts. Enable multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication includes something you know, like a password, and something you have, such as a text to your phone. Be cautious of any suspicious attachments or links. You can easily hover over a link before clicking it, and it may provide additional details as to where the link is trying to take you.
And just a couple of examples before we move on with the presentation, because Darren covered a lot of content in a couple of slides there. So all of the scams that Darren has talked about, he talked about investment scams, he's talked about identity theft, synthetic identity theft, and email takeover. We have seen at Stearns Bank, we have seen people who have came forward and either we recognized it on their behalf and we called them out and told them we think that you're a victim of one of these four scams, whichever one we thought was happening. Or the person has identified it themselves and raised their hand and said, I need some help, I think I've fallen a victim to this. So some of the things, and we'll get into this later in the presentation as well, when you're talking about investment scams, one thing that we're really doing is we're scrubbing our files and looking for indications that somebody has fallen victim of an investment scam. So maybe we're scrubbing their file to look for cryptocurrency payments, or somebody is making, all of a sudden, taking money out of their account and they were told that they were going to get rich really, really quick because they are investing in this new product that is going to really accelerate their income. Well, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if you have somebody calling you saying, if you give me $5,000, I'm going to turn it into $10,000, and then if you ask 2 or 3 of your friends to join, kind of known as a pyramid scheme, you might have heard about pyramid schemes, you start to hear people that all of a sudden they think that their investments are going to snowball. Well, what's really happening is they're paying for an investment that is not going to go anywhere, and they end up losing sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've heard of people who have maybe lost their entire life savings because of it, and so it's our job to make sure that we're looking for signs that that is happening, or that if people raise their hand, that we take proper steps to help them repair that and recover what they Identity theft, we see cases of that as well, and that's why it's really important for us to know your customer and for us to understand, are the credentials and is the contact information that somebody is presenting to us, does it look altered? Does it appear to be genuine? Do the email address and does the phone number that we are given identify with third-party reports that we can link back to that person or that business? Those can be signs of like identity theft, especially if you're not doing face-to-face business with people. Synthetic identity theft, that's been something that's been evolving over the last several years, and to Darren's point, that is really a Frankenstein type of identity where people are taking bits and pieces of made-up information and they're creating an identity. And sometimes, some of the cases that we've seen, it's been years in the making, where somebody might take a social security number, as Darren alluded to, of a child, and is that child gonna know? They're probably not gonna know until they try to apply for the first credit card or a student loan, and they find out, oh my gosh, my credit's been ruined because somebody stole my social security number years ago. So they'll maybe start by taking that child's social security number, and then they attach a date of birth to it, and they take an address that is maybe not even in the location where that social security number was issued, and they're blending that together. They'll apply for credit, and once they have applied for credit, what they're doing is they know they're going to be denied. But what they've done is they've created a credit profile of a denied person. So then they'll take that denied credit and they'll maybe add, maybe I'm the bad actor. Maybe I've stolen somebody's social security number, date of birth, I've been denied credit. Now, Darren has good credit. He's part of my scheme. Darren is going to apply along with me because eventually I'm going to get approved as a co-signer for a credit card. And I'm going to pay on that credit card for a little bit. And I'm going to pay as agreed. And then I'm going to go and apply for another credit card and start increasing that credit limit. I'm going to pay on that as agreed for a while. And then I'm going to move on to maybe an auto. And at the same time, they're creating a fake photo ID so that they can obtain the credit. They're giving that to the creditor. Lender doesn't realize that this is a Frankenstein. Eventually, they've created this entire identity, and their whole plan is that they're going to bust out at some point. They're going to be making these payments along the way, getting money from other sources to make the payments, but eventually their plan is to bust out, and they've probably already started the process of creating another identity. I remember sitting on a webinar once, and they said that I don't remember the exact statistics, but these people had hundreds of synthetic identities that they had been fostering for years so that they could carry out this big elaborate scheme. So synthetic identity, it's a problem, and again, the way that we can identify that is by making sure that we're getting out there and telling people about it, making sure that if you have small children, putting a fraud alert on their credit bureau so that it makes it a lot less likely that their identity is going to be stolen. And we are researching and making sure that we're verifying third-party information to reliable sources, because it's a very elaborate scheme that has snowballed over the years. And then the email account takeover. Some situations that we've seen is where you might have a bad actor that is, I always call it sitting in somebody's email bucket, and they're watching this person's activity. They've gotten in, either you've clicked on a malicious link and they've gotten in that way, or they've done some password cracking and they figured out how to get into the email, but the victim normally doesn't know that they're in that email for a really long time, and so this bad actor will just sit there and they're very, very patient monitoring these emails. And then all of a sudden they'll see, oh goodness, there's a transaction happening. This person's going to buy a piece of equipment. And they'll watch this transaction evolve from the credit application process all the way to the approval process to documentation. And what does the lender have to do? They have to pay somebody, and they have to send the funds out for this equipment so that it can be paid for, right? So this is where the real fraud comes in. The bad actor sat there patiently enough in the person's email. They will take an email that was legitimately sent by the victim, and they'll delete it from their inbox and from their deleted and they're sent, so that email never happened, but they'll take the content of that email and they will slip in wire instructions that are directing funds to go to the bad actor's account at just the right moment. And then all of a sudden the financial institution or the customer are calling and saying, where's my money? Well, the bad actor has already slipped in and rerouted these funds to go to an incorrect account. So how do we catch that? You watch any subtle changes in an email address. So let's say the bad actor took out an email from somebody at stearnsbank.com. They will maybe put an extra period in the email address, so it makes it look like it's coming from somebody from Stearns Bank, or it looks like it's coming from a victim. But they're making a subtle change that it's really hard to be caught. So it's really important when you're receiving or sending information to watch the email address that it's coming to or from, or even if you're going and navigating to a web page, that's an easy way for bad actors to get into emails, is if they navigate you to a malicious web page, they'll make just a real subtle change to that domain, and then all of a sudden they've got you, and you're actually conversing with a fraudster and not the real person. So just wanted to give a couple of examples before we move on.
So next I'm going to touch on mail theft and then how it relates to check fraud. Mail theft is a huge issue right now. I know when I first heard of check fraud, like, people still use checks. Like, I was in debit card fraud for a very long time, didn't realize that checks are still used. So a lot of times, mail theft is part of an organized crime. So either there's a large crime ring or a smaller crime ring, and they go and they will go through residential areas and just take mail out of any mailbox that has the little flyer up. They also will break into apartment buildings, and where they have like the wall of mailboxes, they'll break into those and open those. They also will try to break into the blue boxes that are out on the street, and also recently there's been an increase in mail carrier robberies. So they will try to steal from the mail carrier, or they'll try to steal a key that opens, like a master key that opens all the other mailboxes. So it's been a huge increase in that, and with the mail theft, it's kind of where it leads into check fraud, where they'll go through, you've already paid, you have a check, you wrote to pay just your $45 cable bill. They will take your check and they will what we call wash it, which is just put it in a bath with some chemicals, and it wipes away all the information that you needed, but still leaves your basic check information, and then they will fill it out, altering it to make it appear, now payable to you for $45,000. So this is a real example of a check that was washed. So you can kind of see it's a little bit more fuzzy almost, like it looks not crisp, I guess you could say. And so one of the best ways to protect yourself from mail theft, and then what leads to check fraud, would be writing any checks with black gel ink. It helps prevent washing. It's probably the best ink for that because it's really hard to wash it off like a blue ink or something like that. And then also, when you mail items, go to the post office and put it in one of the blue collection boxes, but make sure you do it prior to the last pickup of the day. So if they've already missed the last pickup for the day, you might want to just come back the next day. And then if you're leaving town for an extended period of time, just make sure you place a hold on your mail or arrange for someone else to pick it up, because it can also lead to identity theft by all those credit card offers we get in the mail. And then next, money mule scams kind of goes off of what Darren had first touched on, imposter scams. Money mule scams are someone contacts you saying, you're getting some sort of relationship with them. It could be a romantic investment, all of those kind of scams that were mentioned earlier. And they're telling you a story of, I'm going to send you this much money, and then can you send it here for me to like pay back a friend. So someone's saying that I'm in jail, go with that one, or I'm overseas, I'm trapped, I can't get money to get out of jail. So they're like, oh, my friend, he's gonna wire you some money. The money might not look like it comes from that person, but it's from my friend. When you get that money, can you wire it here? Or can you withdraw it from an ATM and then go deposit it into a Bitcoin, or withdraw it from your ATM and then deposit it into a Bitcoin ATM? So it's just moving the money around, so it's harder for someone to trace it. In this case, it's kind of turned in where money mules have been getting, I guess you'd say, like more actions being taken against them once they've been told you need to stop. You were told, your financial institution, law enforcement has told you you are a victim of a money mule. Your person you're not speaking with, you're not speaking with your fiance. That's not who's telling you to do this. And so the FBI has recently cracked down on that, and if you continue to do these activities after you've been told that this is fraud, it's a scam, they have gone after and done charges against people, which is always kind of, you feel bad for charging the victim, but in the case, the banks are taking a large financial loss, and then you also are laundering money too, so it's great.
One of the things that happens with these money mules too is once the bad actor gets those funds back in their possession, it's very hard to trace those funds down the line because they will then send funds to multiple different accounts. And so as soon as, say you send $5,000 to one of the bad actors via a money mule account, they're going to maybe send $500 to this account and $1,000 to this account and $750 to that account. They're gonna parse that money out into multiple accounts, so it's getting harder and harder to follow the money once that scheme kind of gets back to the bad actors.
And then also, I know, when I think of timeshares, I don't know, I think of my grandparents. But timeshares are a thing, a lot of people especially have them in Mexico. And a big scam is people are contacted, sometimes when they're at their timeshare in a different country, by someone they think works at the resort saying, hey, are you interested in selling your timeshare? Or if someone calls them, they're contacted in multiple different ways, and they're told, oh, I have a buyer. They're gonna pay me $100,000 for your timeshare. I need you to cover the taxes and legal fees. So can you please wire, my lawyer $4,000 or $5,000? And then they do that, and then they're like, oh, for some reason now there's another fee involved, so you tell them to wire more. And in the end, it turns out that you're wiring all money, most likely international, you're not gonna get the money back because it was sent via wire, and you didn't sell your timeshare. And then, I guess for me, the best part of this scam is then, after you've been scammed, someone will contact you saying, hey, I think you fell victim to a scam, let me help you recover the money. So then they fall victim to another scam of someone promising that they're gonna give you your money back, which can be really hard because a lot of times when you're a victim, you kind of feel desperate at that point. You've lost a lot of money, and you just want, this is your last chance. I've had customers tell me, like, what does it hurt if I try? And it's kind of being there, like, I can't let you do this. You can't, and it's really hard to have those kind of conversations with people because, I think we mentioned before, too good to be true. Someone probably isn't buying your timeshare for $100,000, especially when, it didn't cost that much. And then rolling scams, kind of covered this a few times with the money mules and the imposter scams, but in this case, someone contacts you, and there's multiple different ways that these people can reach out to you. A lot of times they will put certain criteria into public dating profiles. They want someone who possibly has been widowed. They also will want someone who's probably been on the sites for a long time, and keywords within their profile that they look for, and they'll contact you. A lot of the times they'll start a relationship and they'll ask you to move. So if you did it on a dating website, they'll ask you to move to another platform, such as like WhatsApp or Telegram, and that's where most of the communication will take place. They'll always have a reason why they can't do a voice or video call. So most of it is always going to be via email and messaging apps. They'll really, they'll be there for you 24/7. They're always going to be there to answer calls or talk to you, or every morning make sure they send you a text message. They really work on targeting people who want that personal connection and are missing it in their lives. Then all of a sudden, they'll say, like, I'm really coming to try to visit you. One's like, sometimes they're in the military overseas, and they're trying to come back from their deployment, and they got stuck in customs because they had gold bars on them. So now they need to wire their lawyer in Ireland, $30,000 so they can get released from prison and get their gold bars that they're trying to bring here. So those are kind of how the scam works, and the hardest part with those, much like with timeshare scams is the people believe they're in love with this person. They are engaged, they think they're gonna get married. And so it's kind of having a conversation with them, making sure that when you start asking questions, you're very supportive, and I think, how would you almost let them talk and have them identify the red flags themselves. Because they're in a place where you're in love, it's your new love, you think all these great things, they promise you the world, they might have sent you flowers. So it's making sure that you kind of bring it to light and provide tips is to stop communication with them completely. They'll try to communicate, they won't stop, so you gotta contact your cell phone provider and block their phone number. Don't send money to anybody you haven't met. Sometimes they'll even require you to put $30,000 in a shoebox and mail it. So there's lots of things that are aspects of these, and in the time you believe it. So also recommend listening to your friends, relatives, anybody who's telling you anything about this, especially if the person is telling you what to say to them. So the person will tell you oh, you're gonna go to the bank and I need you to withdraw this money. You're gonna tell them this. And they're gonna tell you exactly what to say when the teller asks you the next question. So they have it all planned out. You're coached very well. So it can be harder to identify, because I feel like money is a touchy subject for a lot of people. So, you don't want someone questioning your money already, and then in the end, after a long play, these are very long, drawn-out scams, usually you're talking about for 6 months, you then find out that none of this was true, and not only did you lose a lot of money, but you're heartbroken, and it's really hard.
Yeah, I think, like Becky said, the most dangerous thing about a romance scam to me is that they really try to play on your emotions more than anything else. And I had went to a seminar, and there was an FBI agent that was talking about his experience with romance scams, and he had noted that when they go out, they try to contact the person, the victim that has been scammed. They'll tell them, here's what's happening, we have all of these details, we know what's happening, I'm the FBI, I'm telling you that you're being scammed, and the victim still won't believe it, because that's how impactful these relationships that they've built are. And that really goes into the time frame of they build these up for months, so it's really easy to believe that this person truly does exist. It's not usually the quick, hey, send me money type of deal. It's this long, drawn-out romance.
It's definitely one of the harder ones to kind of convince other people. And then next, we're going to talk about elder financial exploitation. So this is an improper or illegal use of property, income, or resources of a vulnerable adult, of any person who's using it for their own profit, usually have some sort of fiduciary responsibility over the person. It could be just someone who comes up to your house and says, I'm gonna do some work on your sidewalk, I've noticed this, can you sign this and I'll start the work. Or it could be someone like your daughter who's helping take care of you, who is misusing your funds in your account. One way to kind of protect the elderly people in your life is to make sure there's a clear understanding of your finances and stay connected to your relatives. Sometimes you get someone who, their kids all live far away, so making sure you still have a connection to them, because people will prey on that. Have a power of attorney or trusted contact person on file with your financial institution. So if something concerning starts happening on the account, they can contact someone and make sure that everything is okay. And then at Stearns here, we do train our main staff to look out for signs of elder financial exploitation. So it's nice to just have that extra thing. We might ask you why you're doing something with your money. It's not because we really want to know what you're doing with your money. We just want to make sure that you're not a victim of some sort of theft or scam. Minnesota is kind of unique where it has really good resources for victims of elder financial exploitation. There's the Minnesota Elder Justice Center, which provides free support to victims and family of elder financial exploitation. Grandparent scams. Sorry to laugh. My grandma was a victim of this scam, so it's just kind of hard to believe sometimes that people are doing this. So a loved one will receive a phone call from someone claiming to be their relative, usually grandson, granddaughter, and connection will be great, but they'll be in distress. They said they're in jail. They are in Mexico. They were driving a car and they hit someone. Then that someone ended up being pregnant and they lost the baby. So then they're in jail and they need to send bail. $10,000 to my lawyer. I got this lawyer in Mexico. But when it comes to how you send the money, they're going to want it in gift cards. So you're going to tell you to go to your local pharmacy or big box store and buy gift cards in $100 to $500 denominations, depending on what's allowed. They'll even pull up the best places, like, oh, go here, try to get this many gift cards here. Then once they tell you, no more, go across the street and go to this pharmacy, and you'll get more gift cards there. Or you can send the money via mobile apps or wires as well. I recently had someone contacted me or talked to me about a case where they got a phone call, the person was pretending to be their son, and he was in the financial field, and he's like, it sounded just like my son. Unless he knew his son wasn't in Mexico. But he's like, otherwise, I would have believed it was really him. The use of technology has gotten so much more advanced over the years that it is really becoming harder and harder to decipher that. So I think it's always good to kind of just bring awareness to the scam. It's been happening for a long time, and it still kind of just does its rounds. But yeah, my grandma got a call saying, my cousin was in jail, she couldn't drive, she's older, so she went to her neighbor, and the neighbor drove her to the store. And on the way to the store, the neighbor convinced her to call my aunt, who then, it's like, no, he's right here, he's fine. But she was hysterical. She was crying. This was so believable to her. So they kind of really just prey on those emotions, as Darren had mentioned earlier, especially with the romance scams.
One thing that some of these retailers have done is they've put in some really focused training so that they can recognize if somebody is falling victim to not only a grandparent scam, but any kind of scam where somebody is told to go and get gift cards to pay. One example is I was actually talking to somebody that was a victim of a utility scam where this person was at home, they have a business, they were at home and they were sick, and they received a call from one of their employees, just frantic, saying, oh my goodness, the utility company's on the phone saying that you didn't pay the bill and you need to go and get gift cards to bring the bill current or they're going to turn off our electricity today. Well, this person, they're at home, they're sick, so they're not thinking clearly anyways because they're not in their normal environment. And they went to a retailer and they started buying these gift cards, and the retailer said, whoa, I think you're a victim of a scam right now. And then that aha moment came on, and this person said, oh my goodness, what if I had gone through, and what if I sent these gift cards, because they'll ask you to read off the code and the 3-digit security code for these gift cards, or whatever, however many digit security code is for the gift cards, and all this scammer can use the gift cards and you're out the money. So these retailers have done a tremendous job over the years of being alerted that this is a scam. Again, not only for grandparents, but for other types, and that if somebody comes in, that's why, although annoying, if you're trying to buy gift cards as Christmas gifts, you might be asked some questions, and rightfully so, because they're trying to make sure that you're not falling victim, and that it doesn't come back on that retailer, that they might have some sort of responsibility for not recognizing and flagging that. So there is something to be said that these retailers are standing up and putting limitations, or even limitations on not only the number of cards that can be bought in a day, but the dollar amount and vice versa. And that's a protection for the consumer as well as for that retailer.
Yeah, I know the Best Buy by where I live actually has signs at the checkout. Did someone ask you to come buy this gift card? Which I thought was great when I saw it. I took a picture because I'm a nerd, and I was like, oh my god, this is so great because it's such an issue. I wish I could see that in more merchants. I know other big box retailers have talked about it and do the training, and I haven't seen the signs anywhere else. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about sweepstakes scams. So this is when you think you won the publisher clearinghouse. So you receive a letter, a text message saying you won with instructions. Contact your agent here. He will help you, navigate the system of claiming your prize. Then they'll be make sure don't tell anybody until you get your proceeds. That's part of the reason you're going to lose if you tell anybody you're not giving your prize. prize. So the letter will say you need to send us money in order to cover the taxes and any sort of processing fees with the winning. So this is an example of a letter that I have seen multiple people receive, customers have received, where they say Publishers Clearinghouse on the top, and at the bottom it'll say Mega Millions, Reader Digest. You have Walmart and JCPenney. What is JCPenney doing with the Sweet Street scam? And then a lot of times also, you've also won a Mercedes, and there'll be a picture of Mercedes on there. And on the letter, it says, you need to call your claims manager to start the process of this, and that this is all strictly confidential, which means you cannot discuss this with anybody. So you'll get on the call, you'll talk to, usually Ebony, and he'll start telling you the steps to go through to claim the money, which usually involves wiring money to an unrelated third party. You're not sending the money to Publishers Clearinghouse, usually just an individual's name. And then a lot of times they also will include a check. This is your reimbursement for paying those fees. So I'm going to give you the money here, you deposit it, and then you can wire it. A lot of times the check will have multiple different logos on it. This one actually said Publishers Clearinghouse. Sometimes it's just a check that was stolen in the mail, and it'll be a construction company's name on it. And the envelope it came in would have been from an investment firm. So they're really grabbing lots of different pieces of information that are financial related, but not related to Publishers Clearinghouse. I don't know. I think they still do that. Do they still show up every May with the balloons?
I see commercials.
I don't see commercials, so I wasn't sure on that.
And I don't know how many times in your emails, I don't know how many times I've been the grand prize winner of that month of a specific item for like 10 big box retailers. And every month I seem to be a winner with the same retailers, so don't click on those emails either. Those are also, just delete them. You don't have to open them. All right, so I will take us home here on the scams, and then Patty will wrap us up. So tech support scams, this is a big issue as well. This is where a tech person will call and say, either call or they email, or you get the annoying pop-up saying, there's something wrong with your computer and I need to fix it. And so the scammer is trying to get permission to get into your computer so they can fix it. Could also be how they turn into a business email compromise situation because they're taking control of your system. So what they're really doing is they're getting you to allow access, and now they have access to your personal information. So anytime you think that there's actually something wrong with your computer, if it's work-related, go to your own IT people. If you are at home, then actually reach out to a verifiable place or a verifiable computer repair place to make sure that this is legitimately something that is wrong with your computer. Don't ever allow somebody to remote in unless you are absolutely confident that this is a legit issue. Be careful of those pop-ups saying that there's something wrong, because it's likely there is not. There's other ways to go in and fix these. In any emails that you receive saying that there's issues with your computer, just delete them again. Reach out directly to the company or to your IT persons to make sure that you're getting those appropriately taken care of. And if there's any emails that are asking you to call a specific phone number, don't call that phone number in the email. Organically look up a phone number for that company, or again your internal IT people, and call that phone number, because it's likely a scam phone number that they'll ask you to call in, and then they'll ask to remote in via that phone number, and that's all part of the scam as well. Work from home or just general employment scams are growing, especially with the number of folks who are working from their homes now. And this isn't just a work from home scam anymore. This is actually an employment scam that has been increasing. And this is where somebody's advertising that they can make a lot of money working from home, or that maybe it's a recruiter that's reaching out saying, hey, I see your profile on LinkedIn and I think that you would be perfect for this particular job. And they might go through the interview process, and all of a sudden that turns into a job extension offer, and now it's time to do the paperwork. Well, this is when the scam comes in, is when they ask you to submit your personal identifying information, so you're giving them your name, your home address, your social security number, date of birth, sometimes even your photo ID. You just gave a scammer your entire identity. What are they gonna do with it? We talked about 10 slides ago, identity theft. Now they have everything they need to do to commit identity theft. So that's one thing that could happen. Another thing that could happen is they extend the job offer, but and maybe even they double up. They collect your personal identifying information, but then they go a step further and they say, and I need you to pay for training, and I need you to go out and buy some equipment, I need you to buy a computer, I need you to buy a printer, I need you to buy some other supplies, what have you. But we need you to send us $1,500 so that this can happen. And by the way, we'll reimburse you, and by the way, you never get reimbursed. So never send an employer money to buy your supplies for you, because they should be supplying that on your behalf. They shouldn't be asking for you to send them money and to get reimbursement. And make sure that if you did receive an unsolicited job offer, or even if you're responding to an ad, it could be a scam ad, make sure that you are researching that company thoroughly, that they exist. I always like to do a toggle in on a street view of companies to see, do they actually have exterior signage, and does it look like they're a legit company. Check out their profile on things like the Better Business Bureau to make sure that they're legit. So just be wary of any of those scams where they've reached out to you. Is it a legit company? Is it a legit job offer? Are they asking for you to pay money up front? If those things are true, it's probably not a valid offer. Instagram and social media scams. I fully admit, I love my LinkedIn. It's a great place to network career-wise. Love my Facebook. It's a great way for me to keep in touch with my acquaintances all the way back to elementary school. Also a great place for scammers. And those scammers are out there and they're wanting you to click on different links. They're wanting you to buy their product. It's a good way for them to state that there's a lottery or that there's sponsorships that are popping up. They want you to click on those links. A lot of times those are malicious links. Or if you see the too good to be true t-shirt offers, or get this t-shirt for $5 and it's a knockoff of a name brand. Be really careful of those that are coming on social media. The other ones are phishing emails. So here's an example that actually happened to me, where all of a sudden it was a couple of years ago, I was getting texts from some of my colleagues, some of my friends. They're saying, hey, I just got a friend request for you on Instagram, and by the way, you also messaged me, and you were telling me that there's this great investment opportunity that you wanted me to contact you about. And I said, stop. I said, you're actually the victim here. What they did is they took my Facebook profile picture and my name, and then they were able to access my friend contacts, and they were reaching out to all my friends on Instagram, which I'm not even on Instagram. And they were asking them to become they wanted me to become friends, or wanted them to become friends on Instagram, and they were offering this great investment opportunity. And so people recognized right away Jill wouldn't be doing this. They recognized it was a scam, but unfortunately a lot of people don't recognize that it's a scam. And what they're wanting you to do is respond to them and initiate that conversation, or they're eventually going to send you a link to click on, and that link is malicious. And that malicious link is how they can get you into some of these scams. And so then they're going to get, by clicking, they're going to get your credentials and full access to your accounts. And then they'll further that scheme. They'll sometimes even pose as that victim, and they'll get other people to get in on the scheme with them.
And then also another one is someone's approaching you, a brand, saying, hey, we've noticed your growing number of followers. We want to offer you a brand partnership. So they'll ask you to become an influencer for their product, ask for your banking information so they can send you the payment and promotional items, but that's just not true. They'll have lots of fake profiles. So that one has really been on the rise lately, targeting people, especially if you're steadily growing your followers on social media. They'll be like, oh, we noticed you hit 25,000. I think it's perfect now that you're right on what we're looking for promoting our items.
And if you think that you've been a victim, always go in and change your password and make sure that it's a strong password. That's gonna help prevent any future activity that happens. Scams that are specifically targeting students and young adults, there's a couple of them here. So a roommate scam, so the scammer responds to a seeking roommate ad, and they want that potential roommate to send a check in an amount that exceeds the amount that is being asked for. And then the victim, that student victim, receives that check, and they're asked to refund the amount of money that was over. Well, so they do this refund, and then they find out that, well, actually that entire check was bad, and the victim needs to cover the cost of that entire check. So make sure that you understand if somebody is reaching out, they're saying, hey, I'm responding to your ad, I want to be your roommate, that you're checking out their credentials before you accept any funds from them or before you would send any funds back to them. Make sure that you're protecting yourself that way. Reshipping. And so maybe there's, the victim is recruited online by a job board or some sort of an employment website, and the scammer ships the goods to the victim, and they're telling the victim, hey, I need you to reship these goods to a different address. And then normally what's happened is those goods were stolen, or they were illegally purchased with stolen credentials. And so now it's similar to the money mule, but you're actually dealing with goods, and that victim becomes kind of that middle person of shipping those goods. And sometimes they actually receive some sort of a reward or some sort of monetary reward for doing that reshipping. So be careful doing anything like that if you don't know a person. And then Apple iCloud scam goes a little bit back to the tech, where somebody is impersonating that they're somebody from Apple or from iCloud, and that they're their tech support, saying that somebody tried to log in with their ID and they detect a suspicious activity. Well, now they're asking for you to give your credentials so that they can fix this problem for you. Again, they don't have your credentials until you give them to the person that's supposedly calling from the tech ID. So don't be giving out that information willingly. It's a scam. Just hang up the phone. And even if you receive those urgent emails from Apple or from iCloud or any of those tech places saying, hey, click on this link, there's something happening with your account, don't click on the link. It's more than likely a malicious link. And then if you feed information into that link, you're giving them your personal credentials. So card cracking, this is recruited by social media sites with a promise to earn some quick money. You're asked to open a bank account, make an initial deposit, and then to give the debit card and the security code card on the back to the scammer. The scammer deposits some counterfeit or some stolen accounts or some stolen checks into an ATM. And then that scammer withdraws those funds before the checks are actually returned as fraudulent. They run off with the money, and the scammer tells the victim, hey, report this debit card as stolen, and say that you wrote your PIN number on the back of the card, and then all of a sudden that account is closed out. But really that victim becomes part of that process because you're part of that criminal activity at that point. Some scams that are focused really towards some of our military members. They've been targeted for illegal auto financing and sales financing, so they're doing some payment packing, so where they're adding unwanted add-ons into that package. Maybe that person doesn't actually need to have those extra add-ons. They're doing some bait and switch tactics, so they're advertising at one price, but then they'll be advertising a vehicle at one price, but when the person comes in, they say, well, that vehicle is actually not available anymore, and then they're trying to sell them a different higher priced vehicle, but they're using very aggressive sales tactics. And then they're adding junk fees, so like maybe a contract for oil changes for electronic vehicles. Also phony promises of earnings on investment opportunities, so they're luring some of these military consumers in by offering military-specific types of discounts. An example was Burger Ion had allegedly deceived some people with false claims of going through military pitches that would enable them to start their own business and year-over-year substantial income. And that required for them to sell membership to others in hopes of earning a commission, but it was actually a really hard sell. They weren't able to sell those memberships.
I'm gonna take it from here, just to recap some things. Action Center, if you do fall victim to a scam, number one thing you want to do is stop communication. You don't want to contact the scammer at all, because anything you're doing, whether it be on your phone or your computer, they could be tracking what you're doing. You want to report your scam to the Federal Trade Commission, contact your bank or credit card company, and try to attempt to reverse the transaction. Most banks and credit card companies have elite fraud teams, and they are willing to help you. If you sent a wire transfer to the scammer, you'll need to file a complaint with FBI. Also tell your bank what happened. You don't want to pay scammers with gift cards, payment apps, and those kind of methods, like Darren and Jill explained. If you go out and buy a gift card and you give them all the information on the back of that, they're going to redeem it before you even have a chance to report it to anyone. And then you're out the money you paid for those gift cards. If you have divulged personal information, you need to go through all of your accounts, and that can be pretty cumbersome. We all have so many accounts. To create new usernames on some, but definitely to create new passwords, and you need those passwords to be very strong. So you're looking at 10 to 14 digit passwords, uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and numbers. And the more complicated they are, the harder they are for a scammer to crack. If you are getting a bank statement, credit card statement in the mail, still most people have gone to paperless, but regardless of how you get your bank statement, make sure you're reviewing that every month. If you're all of a sudden seeing that every other week there's $250 being withdrawn out of your account, and it's not you, there's a problem. If you've allowed access to your computer or your phone, immediately contact whoever is your IT support specialist, and they can get into your system and make sure that your security software is up to date.
And then what Stearns Bank does to protect our customers from fraud. There's a lot of different things we have in place. Darren and I both have fraud teams that investigate and monitor for suspicious activity, which include transaction monitoring, receiving elevations of suspected suspicious activity. We also have bank-wide training on identity theft and scam red flags that all bank staff is required to take. We also do, and then we also have a lot of customer verification processes in place. I think one of the best things about Stearns Bank is for protecting our customers against especially identity theft or fraud is we know our customer. So when they come to the branch and they request to withdraw $5,000, which is extremely out of pattern, our banker would know that that is unlike the customer and know to ask the additional questions, which would then lead to hopefully getting some information about it. So like I mentioned before, we're not asking you what you're doing with the cash just because we want to know personally what you're doing. We want to make sure that you are not being taken advantage of.
Just some final bullet points on what you can do to prevent fraud. As we all have mentioned, regular account monitoring is very critical. You want to know what's happening with your accounts, all of your accounts, because if there's something unusual going on, you need to look into that. Secure online practices, making sure that you use a secure Wi-Fi connection when you're conducting online banking activities. Make sure that no one is eavesdropping on your device. Anti-malware software. That is very important as well. You'll see ads pop up on your laptop for Norton, for example, and that is antivirus software. that is something that unfortunately we all have to pay for, and it's well worth the investment. Be cautious of phishing attacks. So if you get a suspicious email or a suspicious text message, and there's a link in there saying you just won, don't click on it. If you weren't expecting it, it's probably not legit. Using strong passwords, we've touched on that. Make sure that you aren't sharing those passwords as well. And be vigilant about what you're doing, who you're providing your information to, and who you're sending money to. As long as you're aware of what's going on in your accounts, you're probably a lot safer than those who aren't paying attention.
All right, so we would open it up for questions, comments. I am hoping that everybody had at least a couple of nuggets that they can take away to help protect themselves, or at least to recognize if you are somebody that you know have been or are a victim of some sort of a scam. And again, we're all available, so if you have any individual questions or situations that you would like to run past us, we would love to answer those for you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.